Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk meets Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in a surprise visit to Lviv.
Ukraine claimed responsibility for killing the head of nuclear troops Igor Kirillov in a blast in Moscow.
Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk has made a surprise visit to the Ukrainian city of Lviv. He met with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine. In the meeting, Tusk has pledged more military aid to Kiev and announced the opening of a new border crossing between the two countries. Tusk's visit is also meant to reaffirm Poland's continued support to Ukraine. And as Warsaw gears to preside over the European Union in January, the Polish premier says his country will look to advance Ukraine's accession to both the bloc and NATO.
Gdyby to zależało od Polski, nie trwałoby to dłużej niż jeden dzień. Ale możecie liczyć tutaj na naszą dyplomację i nasze działania. Będziemy robili co w naszej mocy, aby perspektywa członkostwa w NATO dla Ukrainy była coraz bardziej realna. I zdajemy sobie sprawę, że nie jest to łatwa droga.
Zajęła prezydenta Ukrainy.
President Zelensky hailed Warsaw for its position, emphasizing that Poland's presidency can, quote, bring us closer to joining the EU. Zelensky also expressed the need for Europe to come together and stand with his country. He says Europe's strength stems from unity, adding that a strong Ukraine is essential for Europe's protection against Russian aggression.
Чи можна довіряти Росії? Ні. Чи можна довіряти Путіну? Ні. Вони воюють проти нас і нас вбивають. Чи можна буде довіряти наступнику Путіна? Впевнений, що ні. Але нікуди не дінеться. Ми живемо, і у нас довгий кордон. І тому Україні потрібно вийти з цієї війни дуже сильно.
A lot can change for Ukraine in the coming weeks on the diplomatic front. Donald Trump, who's been vocally critical of U.S. support for Ukraine, will take office in January. Warsaw hopes its presidency over the EU will ensure Ukraine remains strong for the next 6 months.
Ukraine claimed responsibility for killing Igor Kirillov, a top general in charge of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical defense forces in Moscow. Kirillov and his assistant were found dead outside of his apartment block after a bomb hidden in a scooter exploded outside of the building.
Он был военачальником, преданным и своему долгу и присяге. Всем понятно, что произошло, что случилось и что нужно делать. Несмотря на то, что расследование только началось, уже наши враги поспешили опубликовать информацию о своей причастности.
A day before his death, Ukraine's security forces charged Kirillov with the use of banned chemical weapons in Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. He was also under sanctions from several countries, including the UK and Canada. When asked about the assassination, UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer reiterated his commitment to support Kyiv.
This is an act of aggression by Russia that's been going on for a very, very long time, so we must stand with Ukraine at this critical period.
Investigators said a criminal investigation has been opened in connection with the deaths. Oil stains washed up for tens of kilometers along the shore in Russia's southern Krasnodar, that is according to the region's governor. He said 260 people were deployed to handle with the aftermath, such as by cleaning the beach covered in black liquid. It came after a storm damaged 2 Russian oil tankers over the weekend, one of which broke in half and sunk. The submerged vessel was estimated to have spilled 3,700 tons of mazout into the sea, which is a low-quality heavy fuel oil. Last week, the European Union issued new sanctions against Russia and their so-called shadow fleet, which consists of old, uninsured tankers to circumvent Western restrictions. The European Union and the shipping industry previously expressed their concerns over Russia's use of the poorly maintained vessels, as they pose significant environmental as well as safety threats.
Turkey seized the opportunity at a meeting with the EU about the situation in Syria to try bring ties between the two closer. On Tuesday, President Recep Erdogan said that EU membership continues to be a strategic goal for Turkey, adding that it is clear it would make significant contributions to both Turkey and the Union. He also said that now the international community could provide the support it has lacked to give Syria over the last 13 years.
Suriye'nin komşularının, dost ve kardeş ülkelerin, Avrupa Birliği ile uluslararası kuruluşların güçlü desteğiyle süratle ayağa kalkması lazım.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced an extra €1 billion in refugee funding for Turkey.
This will support, among others, healthcare and education of refugees in Turkey. It will continue to contribute to migration and border management, including voluntary returns to Syrian refugees.
She added that as things evolve in Syria, this number can be adapted, and reiterated that all returns must be, quote, voluntary, safe and dignified.
The Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group is continuing to consolidate its power over Syria. The rebel group has now taken control of Damascus police. It's currently working in a very limited capacity as it has no legal framework to work by or laws to enforce. The HTS is set to be working on creating new nationwide laws, but in the meantime, the capital's police are only able to take complaints from the public and provide them with verbal assurances. The former head of Idlib police, the stronghold region of the ruling rebels, has been appointed to oversee the capital stations. Meanwhile, in the western coastal city of Latakia, the interim government is hosting a new reconciliation program for former soldiers. Soldiers and police officers under al-Assad were invited to come to a center and register for a new special identity card. The cards are valid for 3 months and grant their holders freedom of work and movement in the country. The interim government says all former security personnel who did not participate in the killing or torturing of civilians were granted immunity. They say the new program is an opportunity for them to seek rehabilitation and adapt to life in a new, safe, and united Syria.
The European Commission launched formal proceedings against TikTok on Tuesday over a potential breach in the Digital Services Act during Romania's presidential election. Nationalist and Eurosceptic candidate Calin Georgescu unexpectedly won the first round, despite being little known to the public. The election was annulled after the Constitutional Court received evidence of Russian interference in the voting process.
La démocratie ne peut que bien se développer s'il n'y a pas de manipulation. Le citoyen libre doit pouvoir s'exprimer librement et s'il est induit en erreur par des algorithmes qui ne fonctionnent pas ou d'autres moyens de manipulation qui aujourd'hui semblent avoir cours sur les plateformes, c'est inacceptable. Alors il faut les combattre avec les moyens dont dispose la loi.
TikTok is accused of not adequately mitigating risks linked to the integrity of Romania's election. The Commission's concerns relate to how the social media's recommendation algorithm works and the system of political advertisements, which require labeling. If found non-compliant with EU law, TikTok could face a fine of up to 6% of its global revenue.
An overnight curfew has been put in place in Mayotte starting Tuesday evening in the aftermath of Cyclone Cheeto. Dozens have died after the worst storm in nearly a century hit the French overseas territory in the Indian Ocean. Aid efforts continue as French military aircraft continue to deliver food and water daily. An airbase on the nearby Réunion Island is being used as a staging post for emergency relief supplies. Nearly 70% of Mayotte's population has been gravely affected, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. The island's main hospital remains severely damaged, and a field hospital is expected to arrive on Thursday. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged to visit Mayotte soon and to declare a national mourning period.
CDU leader and top candidate Friedrich Merz promised to save 100 billion euros by drastically reducing the welfare state and by curbing Germany's migration policies. Merz, alongside sister party CSU leader Markus Söder, vowed to prioritise drawing Germany out of a recession and a tougher stance on crime and to row back on several of the Ampel coalition's policies, such as cannabis legalisation and the dual citizenship reforms. Merz and Söder strongly criticised the Greens and the Alternative for Germany and said that CDU would be focused on implementing policies that were neither left nor woke. According to the latest polls, the CDU are currently in the lead with around 30%, and the most likely outcome from the elections that take place in just over 2 months will be a coalition between the CDU and the Social Democrats. But a lot can change between now and then. Liv Stroud, in Berlin, for Euronews.
A shooting at a Christian school in the U.S. state of Wisconsin has killed a teacher and a student. The shooter was also killed after sustaining a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The Madison Police Department have identified 15-year-old Natalie Ruppnow, who went by the name Samantha, as the shooter. 5 other students and a teacher also sustained injuries. 2 of the students are in critical condition. The Madison PD Chief, Sean Barnes, says the shooter's parents were taken in for questioning and are fully cooperating with the officers. Their home is also being searched as detectives look to identify a motive behind the attack.